Welcome to the Wealth Matters podcast, where investors come together to better understand how to build passive cash flow and create generational wealth without all the confusing mumbo-jumbo. Here's your host and co-author of Amazon #1 bestseller, Alpesh Pamar.
Welcome to Wealth Matters podcast. I am going to have not one superstar today, but two superstars, and my good friends Ryan Hill and Brett Bowman. Ryan is the Chief Operating Officer of Suncrest Capital, and Brett is Suncrest Capital's Chief Investment Officer. So Ryan is focused on pretty much driving operational efficiency in each community. He works closely with community managers to ensure optimal occupancy and expenses, whereas Brett is totally focused on underwriting deals and which helps minimize risks while maximizing investor return. He has been investing for over 12 years. So welcome, Brett and Ryan.
Thanks, Alpesh. Excited to talk to you.
Yeah, it's been a while, huh? So just to let everyone know, we speak every week. We are partners on, one deal. We are planning to, most probably will be partnering on a couple more sooner or later, at least this year. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, us too.
So, and of course, I usually don't have to interview two people, but I think it makes sense here because both of you represent Suncrest Capital and we have been working together for some time. So tell us something interesting or funny about yourself, and both of you can go one after another.
Well, I don't know how funny this is, but I have 6 kids. Wow. And what I think is kind of cool is 2 of my kids are 3rd generation twins. So my uncles are twins. I have a twin brother, and then I've got twin boys. So a lot of twins.
Wow. So you have a twin brother. Wow, that's crazy. That I did not know. I knew you have a twin.
Yeah, he doesn't look anything like me, so you don't have to worry about impersonation.
Okay. What about you, Ryan?
I only have 2 kids, so I can't compete there. I'd say that maybe more on the interesting side of things. I'm a former elementary school principal, high school science teacher, and so I don't know a whole lot of principals or teachers necessarily that jump into the real estate world. So that may be interesting to some folks.
No, that is interesting. And I was going to mention that in your bio, but then I thought, I don't want to spill the beans, right? So does being a former principal at elementary school help you with when you're dealing with community managers?
I think any kind of conflict management resolution, I have a lot of experience in that, from different parties that are upset about something, parents, students, teachers, whatever, right. Diffusing it and getting to a productive outcome. So I think that is a strength that I've developed over time.
He's a magician at it, for sure. I used to think I was good at it until I saw Ryan in action.
So it seems like that was a smooth transition for you.
Yeah, in that aspect, for sure, yeah.
So, and how did both of you get started with real estate?
Go ahead, Brett.
Well, yeah. So for me, I started doing investing in single family homes. I did kind of a house hack situation, and then started doing some BRRRRs where I was buying, rehabbing, refinancing, renting, and then repeating. Started realizing this, was frankly getting kind of depressed over how long it was going to take to get my goals this way. I just was like, man, I'm getting to 4-plex, then maybe I can get to 8-plex, and it was just taking forever. I sort of stumbled upon the idea of syndications, didn't even know it was a thing a few years ago, and started investing as a limited partner in a couple investments, and very quickly realized that it's much, much easier to do that than it is to do the BRRRR method. And I was getting at least as good of returns, if not better, by just being a passive mailbox money receiver. And then after doing that for a little bit, I started contacting these sponsors that I was investing with and just asking for active roles where I could come in and just kind of be a mentee with them and learn. And pretty quickly started taking on underwriting and acquisition roles across 3 different groups, where for the most part, I wasn't being compensated other than maybe some general partnership shares here and there, but it was amazing to learn as quickly as I did across 3 different industries, because some were doing industrial, multifamily. That's where I first got a taste of mobile home communities as well. And then about that same time is when I ran into Ryan, and I'll let Ryan tell the rest of the story because it's kind of funny.
So my start, I think, like a lot of people, reading Rich Dad Poor Dad and just starting to get the mind thinking differently about these types of investments. So I was accidentally house hacking, probably before it was called house hacking, way back right out of college, and bought a house and just was renting out rooms in there. And just figured that was a pretty cool thing. I became a residential real estate agent.
Oh, wow.
I did that for 13 years as a teacher. I was teaching, I was coaching, started my family, and it was trying to figuring out, well, there's all these investors buying these bigger properties or commercial properties. And even as a residential real estate agent, I was like, how do they do that? What do they do? So now we're doing that, which is pretty cool. But that was my start. I basically couldn't afford childcare back, when I first had our first kiddos. So I started doing real estate, and that helped pay for, daycare, childcare, and then it just kept growing from there, much bigger than I ever anticipated. So I think what Brett was getting to, kind of how we connected and got started together. My son, he's 15. He's a little entrepreneur. He's done like a candle business selling, he flips sneakers. He
Nice.
always thinking of new ideas, but he was mowing lawns a couple of years ago, and we had a mutual acquaintance that he was mowing his lawn. I come in to pick my son up and told our friend that I just got back from my first little mobile home park that I bought in Kansas. It's about a 15 space community. And he got really excited and just said, "Hey, I was talking to my friend about this. We should talk more," because I had another off market deal just down the street, another mobile home park. And so Brett and I, we met at the Starbucks just down the road. We only lived maybe a half mile from each other.
Wow.
It started a conversation, and at the time I thought, well, very cool. An investor that can come in and he wants to learn a bit. And I didn't realize at that time, like, Brett really is a wizard with the underwriting and evaluating deals and understanding how all the financing syndication works. So I think those two skill sets have married well to develop to where we are now.
Well, that's a great story. And that one thing it reminds me, in real estate, never underestimate anyone, right? So try to network, try to meet as many people as possible. You never know what would come out of it. So you guys met, right? Was it love at first sight? I mean, when did you guys figure out that you want to partner with each other?
I would say, I don't know about love at first sight, but respect at first sight, I guess. And, to Ryan's point, I thought I was going to be pretty passive on our first project together. It was just Ryan, me, and then our friend Dan, the three of us partnering on it. And the idea was that Dan and I were going to be passive. Ryan was going to do all the work. And pretty fast, we realized, okay, you know what? This is something that we can all work together on. So we all became active partners on it. And then after that we first closed on it, I think it was, so we closed in October. And I think by November, I was, had really gotten the taste for, like, let's go and get some acquisitions. And then I just found an on-market deal for portfolio of 4 communities. And we decided to tackle it together. And that's sort of where we jumped in and formally created Suncrest at that point. And it's kind of been history since then.
Oh, that's amazing. So it seems, and I think this is a really good way to get started, where you basically dip your toes by going passive with Ryan and figured out, okay, this is what you may want to do or partner together, right? A lot of time, we end up being in a marriage which we really don't want, right? We are like, oh yeah, two of us got to partner. We know it will work out. And then once you start working together, it's not the way you want, right? So how did that first deal work out for you?
We're still in that park. It's worked out really well in the sense that the cash flow has been right on point from what we'd expected. it's been a little bit harder to infill than we had anticipated, meaning buying homes and moving them in has been a little bit trickier. And Ryan actually heads that up. So he recently had a nice solution. Actually, just last night, he called me with some good news. So I'll let you transition and share that update.
Yeah, so that first one, I believe we're at 20 or 22 spaces on that one. And for the price per pad was pretty amazing. I think we ended up getting it for what, 195,000.
Oh, that's pretty
good. So smaller, it's a smaller town. It's in the Kansas City MSA, and working with the city on beautifying it, getting rid of some of the older units, things like that. So we just got a bid about a week ago for tear outs. We need to tear out about 6 of the homes in there that just dilapidated, cost way more to fix up
maintain,
than we can sell it for. So our bid was like $35K for all of them, that's reasonable. That's like what we've paid in other communities, but this isn't a $500,000 or $1 million asset that has a ton of cash flow coming in. Right. So that's a healthy chunk for us. So just making some calls around, found somebody that said they can do it for $1,700 a piece. So just a little over 10,000.
Oh, nice.
You can take care of that. And then our plan is to order a handful of new legacy homes. So we'll in this community that's hungry for affordable housing, like most are. It's just not available in most places. We're taking these old dilapidated homes, tearing them out and bringing in some beautiful new homes, which the city can be proud of as they're driving by, and we're creating affordable housing options for people in that area.
So a couple of questions right now, as I have heard that it's taking too long to get a mobile home park when you order new. So how long are you thinking when you order legacy homes right now?
We developed a relationship with them. And so we're able to get them a little bit faster, a couple of different ways that we've done that through them. So it's about 6 months out for them.
Right.
Some builders are over a year out.
Correct.
I just a few days ago spoke to a contact we have at 21st Mortgage, which is they finance flooring is what they call it, which is financing new home builds through manufacturers. And they had actually stopped funding. And unfortunately, we had a couple of homes that they were going to fund for us, and then they canceled it. So for a number of months, they have not been funding flooring because they've seen the market, what's happened with the market with inflation, with a little bit of price gouging by some.
Oh, yes, crazy.
And so they stopped doing it, and now what they're seeing is those prices are starting to come back down a bit. And in some places, I heard a rumor anyway, like down in Texas, there's some plants that they're closing down on like 1 day a week because they have a bunch of inventory on their lots.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That other owners who ordered, they just canceled the orders. So now they have all, these homes. So I think there's going to be a backlog that are going to be coming into the market that will speed up a bit. But right now, 6 months is pretty, like, we're happy with a 6 month time.
Keeping my fingers crossed. Hope we get backlog. It would be good for all of us, right?
Yeah,
for sure. Paying that much price. And I think it makes sense when you're waiting for a year, a lot of time you end up canceling that order because you don't know what's going to happen after a year, right? Maybe you don't need those homes. Maybe you end up selling that park, right?
Yeah.
So, which makes sense. So let's talk about, and when was this first deal?
2020?
Yeah, October 2020.
Wow. So that's crazy. It's not even a couple of years, and you guys went from 0 units to 600 units or pads. Mm-hmm. How did you guys do it?
Yeah, it's, honestly, a lot of that growth happened in the first 12 months. We've had over the last several months, we've had several projects under contract that have just taken a lot longer than normal. So we expected it this year to double that 600. Still hoping to do that. Just, with interest rates increasing and some other aspects of the market, it's been a little bit harder to, close things as quickly as we're used to. But The way we were able to do that, it was kind of a blend between off market and on market. So our first park that we bought together, as Ryan said, was off market. He just drove past it. They had a for sale sign, but that was really the only marketing that they had. And then the next 4 were on market. We bought those through Capstone. We've developed a really great relationship with them. And, at the time I was kind of afraid of on market because I'd heard so many bad things about if you're buying on market, you're overpaying, all those kinds of things. Well, here we are just a little over a year later after buying on market, and we have paid our investors regularly over 8% cash flow every month. And so we were feeling very good about those. And we're actually just starting to dip into the value add there with about almost 30 new homes will be delivered this fall. So those returns will only continue to rise for that portfolio. So super exciting there. And then the next few that we bought that got us to above 600 were all off market deals. 2 came to us through a wholesaler we built a relationship with. And then the third was actually referred to us by another just a friend of ours. So kind of like a blind date to a community, right? He just introduced us to someone that owned a community and he ended up selling it to us. So all of our parks, for the most part, are in the Midwest between Des Moines, Springfield, and Kansas City. We happen to have 2 more out here in Idaho that we are just a couple hours from in Sun Valley, Idaho, but we really love that Midwestern market.
Oh, that's great. So did you guys have a goal in mind when you guys got together that you want to go to this many units? Or what was your goal? Maybe it was the revenue, maybe it was the income?
I would say at the beginning, our goal was a little bit broader than that. Really, I think where Ryan and I really realized we were aligned and catching the same vision is we talked about our family goals, more about building something that was more of a legacy for our family and our families and our children. And, something that at the same time could build generational wealth for our investors. And so that's when we both realized that there was a lot we could partner on and build. It wasn't until earlier this year that we started formalizing goal setting. So we both read, and actually our whole company has read the book Traction by Gino Wickman that I think we've talked to you a few times about that. I'll pass to you, but it's really about setting the most important goals for the company, for the individuals, and then holding each other accountable to reach those. And through that, we've developed our own 10-year vision, 3-year vision, and 1-year vision that our whole company's aligned up with and working toward, and that's helped a ton.
And what was the process you guys went through for going from 0 to 600 units in a year?
Yeah, the process has been there's been a lot of interesting and some hard lessons as we as you scale that fast. I think that your vision gets ahead of the systems that are required to run them well, to continue growth, all of those things. So I think that's been a big focus over the last year, especially, is really fine tuning and building our systems for just efficiency with the people that we have working with us, as well as our own time. So Brett, I'll let you add on to that.
Yeah, I know exactly. It's been setting up the right people and accountability and systems, and we're certainly far from perfect on it. We have a weekly meeting that we do. Frankly, this is all from that Traction book too. So this is just like we've basically taken the Traction book and been religious about it. But there's this weekly pulse meeting where we go through how are we tracking against our goals for the quarter, goals for the year, all those kinds of things. And then the bulk of the meeting is dedicated to what are the top 5 issues that are impacting our business right now from being successful. And we're just very religious about spending the time to figure out what is the core problem, root cause of this issue, and then holding each other accountable to resolve it through like 1 to 2 week action items that resolve those issues. And then right now, actually, we're going through a process of kind of realigning roles. We've noticed a gap in project management and maybe a little bit of an overweight on the community management side. So we essentially have our community manager, Kristen, who I think you've met a few times out there.
Yes.
She manages all of our community managers, and she's also a strong project manager. That's some of her background. We
Nice.
recently promoted one of our community managers to be a supervisor under Kristen. That sort of, she manages a few of the community managers and then reports to Kristen. And we decided that ultimately Sarah should take over the role of regional
Right.
director, and we'll be able to move Kristen into this project manager role, which will, leverage a lot of her experience and fill a gap that we need, or that we have. So, it's an evolution, right? You're always constantly learning, and we like the idea of being able to prepare before the growth rather than
Right.
react to the growth. So that's sort of where we're making sure we're in the right position to scale for the new communities we're bringing on.
Mhm.
So, what are some of the challenges you faced when you went from 0 to 600 units, and how did you? And what are some of the lessons learned?
I think one of the biggest ones, just on the manufactured home community side of things, is homes. All things, all aspects homes, from finding good, reliable contractors to rehab homes, like vacant homes that you have, finding and sourcing quality used homes, transporting those homes. So we had, I think, so many issues with just trying to figure out transportation. We ended up forming our own toting company. So we bought a mobile home toter, and it's full transparency. It's been in the shop getting fixed for a while, which these are pain points that you don't anticipate necessarily, but when it's up and running, we have control over the timing of moves, which we didn't before. We've actually started some third-party moves for other community owners as well.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So the home process as a whole it's a huge, I guess it requires a lot of personnel time and systems to make sure that all of those moving parts are coordinated well, so that we can fix them, rehab them, finance them. So we have a number of financing programs for potential tenants that even if they have poor or bad credit or a bankruptcy or something, they can still get financing for owning one of our homes in our communities, which for us, that's a pretty cool feeling to be able to help people in that way.
Oh, that's awesome. And how did you find your community manager, supervisor, all those people? How did you get started?
I'll start this one. So Doug and Kristen, they're our regional managers, so husband and wife team. So they started with me on that very first little tiny 15 space park. Doug did the inspection for it. He's a commercial and residential inspector, and he had a contractor business, so kind of handyman work as well.
Got it.
I needed a manager, and I'd mentioned it to Doug. He's like, well, let me talk to my wife. And sure enough, she was interested. So 3 years ago, they started with me on that first one. I think Brett saw the potential in them, and as we were looking to scale, really advocated to bring them along and continue to grow them, and they keep growing with us. They're doing an awesome job of seeing where we're going and building their skills to fit the roles that we need. So that's how we got that first layer. Then Brett, I'll let you speak to like the next layer of our community managers.
Yeah, so honestly, having Kristen and Doug in place has been critical for a lot of reasons. I think initially we knew we were going to need them. Looking back, I don't know how we would have gotten anywhere near where we are without them. And so the next layer for community managers, a lot of them we inherited. So during due diligence, we do interviews with the community managers. It's tricky. You've got to talk to the sellers, because a lot of times the sellers don't want their community managers know that you're buying the park. So you kind of go into this guise of, we're doing an appraisal, or we're making an investment with the owner. So they're going to still kind of inferring that they'll still own it, but you're investing alongside them, that kind of a thing, that kind of gives you the latitude to ask the right questions. And then closer to once we're far enough in, then we always make sure the sellers will let us give full interviews with the understanding we are buying the communities. And in almost every case, we've started with the community manager in place. We've now that we're a couple of years in, we've had some turnover at a few parks where, for whatever reason, it didn't work out. But for the vast majority, we still have those same community managers. The other thing I'll say, Alpesh, that's kind of interesting is in the mobile home community space, all operators do things very differently. But what's different, for the most part, in mobile home communities, is the main responsibility for the managers is just to make sure the park is looking good, people are following their responsibilities, and to sell homes. They generally aren't having to deal with collections. They're not generally having to deposit checks, because we can get all of that electronically and we centralize a lot of it. So we have our central corporate team that handles all of our bookkeeping, reconciliations, collections, anything like that that's more centralized. And we even do all the communications come out of our kind of centralized team. So it really takes a lot of that burden off the community managers.
Oh, that's a great way to differentiate and separate out the responsibilities, right? And so that they can focus on the things which matter.
Yeah, exactly.
No, this is great. Thank you so much for helping me go through the entire process and the challenges. Now let's talk about, are you investing? Because I know, and this is how we met, mobile home parks, because I wanted to invest. I had my own one mobile home park and was investing, and then I ended up meeting Brett, and we ended up investing in something else. So now, are you investing in different assets, and why?
Yeah, great question. So obviously leading, because you know the answer to this.
Right.
So we're mostly in mobile home communities. We love mobile home communities. But for the last probably 18 months, we've been looking heavily at retail centers. And when I say retail centers, I want to clarify, this isn't malls. This isn't massive strip centers. We're looking at neighborhood retail centers that are critical to communities. So things like places where you're going to have dollar stores or coffee shops or, local retailers, and obviously nationwide retailers as well, that are going to be critical in person. So more or less COVID proof, more or less online proof, those types of businesses is where we want to be. We also joined a mastermind about a year and a half, 2 years ago, that focuses mostly on retail. They have a lot of mobile home community mentors in that space as well, but we've learned a ton about retail. So earlier this year, after underwriting dozens of retail deals, we finally found one that made a lot of sense for us. It's 7 minutes from a mobile home community we own. It's in the Des Moines market, which we know really well. And it was listed at about an 8 cap. So relatively good going in purchase price. And it was 100% occupied with some upside opportunity. So this is one where Alpesh quickly caught the vision with us and partnered with us. And this is why we've gotten to meet with Alpesh at least weekly, talking about this project up in Des Moines.
And we did travel to Des Moines last month. All of us got together. I was able to look at Jasper Point Plaza. That's the deal Brett is mentioning about. And also we went and looked at another retail shopping center as well. So I'm hoping that may come to our plate as well sooner or later.
For sure. Yeah.
So let's talk about this, Brett, and what has been your best deal so far and why?
So far, I would say our Iowa portfolio in general has been the best one. But just to be more specific, our Iowa portfolio has 5 communities in it. It started with those 4 on market that I mentioned earlier, and then we added a 5th a few months later. And of those 5 now, one in particular just really stood out. It's our community in Osceola, Iowa, which is about an hour from Des Moines. So I think technically in the Des Moines market, but really a tertiary area. So it was one that frankly I was more concerned about because it seemed so far away. But man, the cash flow on that thing is amazing. Nice. It's one of those just communities that just does really well. It's a beautiful looking community. The owners, it's actually 100% tenant owned, or resident owned. Yeah, so it's just a lot easier. I mean, the thing we worry about the most is make sure the lawn's mowed.
Correct.
That's it, And there's actually several acres behind it for us to develop some more too. So it's been a really great one with some upside in the future as well.
That's great. And Ryan, I'm going to ask you this: what has been, because you manage a lot of these communities, what has been the worst deal so far, and what did you learn from it?
Yeah, we've a couple of our Missouri communities that we knew needed a number of capital expenditure projects done. new infrastructure so sewer, water, electric, and transforming this community that literally had sewage running down the street at times when it rained too hard because the septic tanks would overflow. And it was crazy. It was a neglected park, neglected community in a number of ways. I think we ended up that park specifically that I'm thinking of, we evicted 3, maybe it was 5, I can't remember now, like tier 3 sex offenders. And so once we found out about that, we had a plan in place, but it kind of broke your heart because when we first did our due diligence, you're walking around and there are kids living in here, like right across the street from, and so, I wouldn't say it's like the worst deal. It's been a very difficult, challenging process to get that turned around. Not knowing, probably, just learning as you go on these big CapEx projects. You don't know what you're going to run into. It's going to cost more. It's going to take more time than you anticipated. So I think the next time we look at a deal like that, we'll be even better prepared. We're getting through it fine. The sewer project actually just started this last week. We've cleaned out a bunch of homes. We have 16 new homes coming into that community. So in the end, it's going to be a beautiful community, right, kind of in the heart of the city. But it's been, I wouldn't say it's easy in any aspect. It's been challenging. We've had some sleepless nights over that one, but we've worked through it. One of our core principles is grit, and that's one that's challenged our core principle quite a bit, and we've had to really work through those. But so that's the one that comes to mind when you ask that type of a question.
It's funny, Alpesh, I'll just jump in and say, when you asked which one's been our best, my guess is Ryan would have had a different answer. But when you said the worst, we both would say the same one. And my hope is that, and honestly, my expectation is a year from now, we'll both look back at that and it's going to be the project we're the most proud of because it is the one that's taken the most work. And to Ryan's point, going into that community last year, we only saw potential because we knew there were sex offenders, there were little kids, we had crazy bad infrastructure, all those things. And I just really think next year we're going to come back and it's going to be a brand new, completely transformed community that we'll be really proud of. But it's been hard for sure. Oh, sorry, Alpesh, you're on mute.
So that kind of deal teaches you a lot, right? And also at that point, you got to decide, do you give up or do you continue? And if you are resilient enough, you may come out stronger, right? And that's what it is. Or you learn a lot of lessons, and you may end up building a lot of relationships, which will be, pretty fruitful in the future.
Mm-hmm.
No, this is
absolutely
great. Thank you so much, Brett and Ryan, for sharing a lot of golden nuggets as well as sharing your story. Are you guys ready for fire round?
Yeah, sure.
Would you be changing any business or investment strategy because of recession or inflation?
Yes. So a lot of what has changed for us is our underwriting. We used to be able to underwrite into low to mid 4% ranges, and now we're looking at mid 6s at the beginning and refis in the 7s. And cap rates we're increasing our cap rates on the assumptions on the back end because there's an indirect correlation there. So definitely changing some things out that way.
Favorite real estate or finance or even business book?
My latest favorite one has been Justin Donald's Lifestyle Investor book. I kind of have equated it to a 2.0 version of Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow. That's a big one then. I got to check it out. Well, what's yours, Ryan?
One of the more recent ones that we read together, Rocket Fuel. So
yes.
Yeah.
Gino Wickman, right?
Yeah, Gino, it pairs very well with Traction.
Yes, exactly.
So yeah, I think that one has been inspiring too.
Oh, that's a great. Any tool or website you recommend or you cannot live without?
We have so many. One that's probably surprising to a lot of people, I'll say, is Trello.
I was going to say you will mention Trello.
Yeah, we bring Alpeches on a few of our Trello boards. What I love about Trello, I've got a strong multi-year project management background. And I know a lot of hardcore project managers hate things like Trello because they're a little too simple, but that's what I love about it. We don't have to train anybody. It's just really easy. Yes. There's a lot of things you can do on it. So we like Trello.
Yeah.
What's yours, Ryan? Same or?
Trello for sure to help us keep organized and the systems efficient. But then we utilize Google Docs for a lot of our work, and just the ability that sharing aspect, collaboration aspect. So that's the other one that I would say we can't live without.
That's awesome. Any advice for beginner investors?
I would say, if you're getting into the syndication space in particular, I really, obviously I'm biased because it's what I did, but I think investing as a limited partner and then contacting your sponsors, contact your sponsors before investing, obviously, but make it really obvious you want to learn and ask questions. And if you've got the right sponsor, I think anybody is more than happy to spend time with you and teach you. And what we've learned as sponsors ourselves, when we get someone that just is really hungry and willing to work, we love that. And we give them work, we teach them, they teach us. It's just a really great symbiotic relationship.
Yeah, I was going to say pretty much same thing. It's the smart thing, and I didn't do the smart thing at first. I just I dove in head first into it and thought I could do it all. And I figured out most of it along the way. But finding people like yourself, Alpesh, or Brett and I, and there's a lot of people that are in the same mode that are willing to mentor. Like we've had really strong mentors in both the mobile home space and multifamily space. And we believe in giving back and sharing our time and what we've learned with others, because it's reciprocal. Eventually, even if it's just a short-term relationship you have with that person, in 3 or 5 years, they may have a deal. They're like, hey, and they talk to you about partnering on something. So I think just connecting, it's about connecting with people and developing those relationships.
Oh, that's a great advice, and I can relate to that. But you also took my next question. How do you guys give back?
Yeah, I think that's a big one of just, mentoring other people in the space and working with a lot of different people. We actually, at this point, we're trying to develop a system around that too, by the way. The other way I'll say is in the mobile home community space, there's a lot right now of in the news about people increasing rents dramatically and, not necessarily adding value before doing that. And we're big fans of being slow to increase rents. We love buying in communities that are behind on rent and then gradually increasing them over time as we add value. And we love looking for opportunities to add value. So even just roads, for example, we've redone the roads at several of our communities this past year. And I was amazed at the feedback we got from our residents that they just love having roads. That I think one resident described it as driving on butter at a community that hadn't had repaved roads in over 20 years. So I think looking for ways to beautify these communities, add value, make people proud to live and work where they are all ways that we like to give back.
I think you're unmuted.
Thank you, both of you. How can my listeners reach out to you?
Best way is probably through our website. So it's suncrestcap.com. And you can fill out contact us or contact me. Emails are Ryan at Suncrestcap and Brett at Suncrestcap. You can find us both on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram as well. So we do enjoy meeting new people, finding ways that we can benefit them and see how we can partner on things too.
Yep. Absolutely.
Thanks, guys. Thank you again.
Of course. Thanks, Alpesh. It's been fun.
Thanks for listening to the Wealth Matters podcast. If you enjoyed it, please leave us a 5-star rating on iTunes so others can enjoy the show too. Have a great week and happy investing.